Hey folks, this is Kelani. One of the more concerning disappointments with Battle for Azeroth so far isn't necessarily related to any of the content that we've been given to play through. The content for the most part is pretty decent, it's lacking in a few places for sure, and while playing through Legion and then Battle for Azeroth might feel a little taxing due to how many similarities there are, the main concern kind of trumps anything relating to content. If you're not having fun just playing your character, class or spec at that base level, can you really be expected to have fun in any type of content that you're given? I've seen many discussions go back and forth about what's wrong with Battle for Azeroth and why things feel significantly worse when compared to Legion, even though, let's be honest, there were plenty of complaints at the start of Legion for a wide variety of reasons, but a lot of the time it just boils down to classes not being as fun to play. So how do you really fix that issue? Well, you can chop and change how each class and spec plays, tinker about with their rotation, add in an extra ability or two and see how things pan out. That's usually what happens at the start of every expansion. Battle for Azeroth was a bit of an exception to that previous rule, but from what we've heard, the next expansion will be including some class overhauls. That's great news! But the next expansion probably won't be knocking on our doors until later in 2020 if the dev team keeps to a 2-year cycle. What's even more problematic is that the dev team have also said that they don't plan on doing any significant class changes until 9.0, the pre-patch for the next expansion. So if we're not getting any class changes for the rest of Battle for Azeroth, how else can the dev team try to patch up a few of these holes? The Heart of Azeroth is undergoing some significant changes in patch 8.2. It's decoupling itself from the Azerite armor system slightly and providing us with something similar to the Legion artifacts, but we get to choose the major points through a new system called Essences. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll try to explain this as quickly as I can because I know a lot of people here will probably be caught up on this topic. Essences are gathered from almost every type of content in patch 8.2. You can upgrade the rarity of an essence to provide extra effects, and it's essentially a huge cooldown baked right into your Heart of Azeroth. We will eventually have access to 1 active ability as well as 3 passive effects. So for the most part, no matter which essence you take, you will be given an extra button to push in patch 8.2 as well as some powerful passive effects. But are these new effects enough to patch up the holes which have been left open since the Legion artifacts disappeared? We're kind of getting another somewhat sort of similar system with the Heart of Azeroth changes, but I don't think it provides the same kind of feel. Don't get me wrong, the essences have quite a lot of gameplay value. They're incredibly strong when compared to any other ability in the game actually, and they do add something meaningful to our classes and specs. But it's a different type of meaningful. Maybe it's easier to just start with what the essences do right and what's good about them being introduced into the game. Before you even get into the powers of the essences themselves, it's actually super valuable to look at how you go about collecting these essences. They are powerful, not like best in slot trinket powerful, more like game-changing and potentially game-breaking powerful. That means you're going to want most of them to chop and change your Heart of Azeroth to suit different needs and wants. If certain setups are best for single target, while others are best for AoE, some are great in dungeons and some excel in raids, you're going to want to cover your bases. The Essence system gives us something to work towards in all sorts of content. Some come from battlegrounds, some come from rep vendors, some come from dungeons while others are tied to raid progression. You are rewarded in every single type of content in the Essence system. And even though you might say something like, "But Kelani, I don't want to play battlegrounds for one specific essence," well, it's worth noting that the base tier of every essence is very accessible. You can collect every essence at the lowest rarity with minimal effort for the most part. Ranking up your essences is what's going to take a bit more time and effort, but at least you have something to work with while you're going after some of the better ones. I don't think we should be handed the best reward on a silver platter. Actively choosing which essence you want to pursue and ranking it up first is an interesting choice that we'll all have to make. We'll all probably end up with the majority of essences at epic quality eventually, but if you want to take it one step further, you can. There are special visual upgrades to unlock with legendary ranks of essences which will require even more time and effort, but because they don't offer up any numerical advantage, it's only for the players who really love shiny things. That's also a really good way to reward players at the top end of each type of content while giving us something to strive for. I don't think the implementation is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think it's a good step forward. No matter what you want to say about patch 8.2, you can't complain that we don't have anything to actively work towards. Essences provide us with plenty of reasons to jump headfirst into a variety of content, and that's without even taking the 2 new zones into account. So they do introduce some good gameplay in my opinion, but what about this power spike that I brought up before? Some of these essences are bonkers, seriously bonkers, and you might think I'm just talking about the active effects. I'm not. Some of the passive effects, which we'll end up with 3 of by the way, keep that in mind, are just as strong as some of the actives. It kinda depends on how your class plays right now, what they value and how much space they have in their normal rotation, but you can pull off some pretty crazy combinations right now, and we only have access to 2 of our 3 slots on the PTR. Some essences don't seem quite as good as the others. I think balancing is going to be a pretty big problem with this, or maybe it's just because some of them scale way better with specs that value haste and crit, but the power spike provided by these essences makes me think 2 things at the same time. The first is that there's no way this is going live. That might be a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to seeing just how powerful some of this stuff seems on the face of things, without delving too deeply into the numbers stuff, but having almost 100% uptime on a 100% crit chance buff with another essence that stacks up every time you crit and provides you with an insane haste boost, which also allows you to increase your crit damage by 35% every minute and a half, which, you know, with a 100% crit chance is just a flat 35% damage increase. You can see how things might get a little out of control. Part of that might just be how a Shadow Priest interacts with these essences, and something very specific might get tweaked, nerfed or changed, but still, you should be able to see some of my concerns. The other thought though is that this is exactly what the essences are designed to do. This is Blizzard saying, we can't really delve into classes just yet, but here's this crazy stupid powerful set of abilities that might hold you over until changes can be handed out. Essences are supposed to be powerful, so if you want to see your DPS numbers skyrocket, then you're probably going to enjoy this system a lot. We're also getting a new raid in patch 8.2, which means another round of power creep thanks to item level increases. Add essences on top of that, and we're going to be doing so much more damage and healing when compared to the Battle of Dazar lore. So, essences also do a very good job at giving us a powerful new set of abilities to play around with, but does this kind of power translate directly into more fun while playing the game? I'm not too sure that it does. Feeling powerful is always fun, but it's not like the new raid will be balanced around not having essences. That would be silly. So if everything scales up relative to the power increase that we gained, we might not even see a difference unless we're running older content or open world content. So even though our damage numbers would go through the roof, the speed at which we can kill new monsters in the new zones or clear through the new dungeon or new raid probably won't change significantly, so we're not going to be stomping all over everything suddenly because of these essences. The major exception to this is Mythic Plus dungeons, because they scale by design, so I do think we'll be able to push much higher in Season 3 than we have been able to so far in Battle for Azeroth, because essences give us an extra layer of power creep. I am actually really excited to see how far players can get and how certain classes decide to set up their Heart of Azeroth to get the most out of the new Essence system. Will they set things up with the whole team in mind, or will everyone just take what's best for their singular class to do the most damage possible? If you enjoy pushing Mythic Plus dungeons, I think you'll get a lot out of Essences in patch 8.2. But with both of these potential positives, the extra power boost and having something to work towards, Essences are, in essence, just an extra cooldown. You're going to have one extra button to push every 45 seconds or every 5 minutes, depending on which one you take. The passive effects can interact with some of your spells, but most of the time it's only when your spells are already being affected by secondary stats. The passives don't typically interact with spells specifically because everyone has access to the same thing. These are very general DPS cooldowns or healing cooldowns or tanking cooldowns, so they don't really change your playstyle or rotation, they just tack something else on top of it all. I'm still playing Demon Hunter how I was playing it before. I just get another damage window thanks to the essences I've been playing with. I still play Shadow Priest how I was playing it before, although it is significantly more powerful, probably more than it arguably should be. These essences will not change how you play most specs. You need to keep that in mind when the system is opened up in patch 8.2. Personally, I don't think the essences are fun enough to bring some classes up to a playable level for me. I do not enjoy my mage at all, essences are not going to change that. Believe me, I've tried. So if you're not enjoying the game right now because of how your class or spec plays, I wouldn't expect essences to really do anything about that. You could absolutely love the power spike or the gameplay surrounding actually getting essences and collecting them and unlocking the legendary versions to get the prestigious cosmetic effects. If that's the case, fantastic, that's amazing, but I would hate for someone to go into the next patch expecting this new system to fix absolutely everything. On the flip side of things, if you're actually having fun right now, like I am with my Demon Hunter and Shadow Priest, this system will only add to your experience. It will give you more reasons to get out into the world and play different types of content, it gives you something to chase after and work towards, and it provides another sizable boost in character power. With how some of these essences work, I am super interested to see how the raids play out from this point on. You can hold these massive cooldowns to nuke down priority targets, build up some of the buff essences to burn through an execute phase, or push bosses at key moments in a fight. Honestly, I think the essences are going to introduce a lot of complexity that wasn't here before in terms of cooldown management, which might be a good thing, or could create a really rough experience for the normal and heroic raiders. With each essence I see so much potential, almost for misuse, for combinations or sneaky strategies specific to certain classes and specs, and I can tell a few of them are going to be stupidly overpowered on certain fights. Add fights with huge AoE essences, or specific fights with a real huge priority target where you can use the single target essences to just blow them up. I'm really excited to see what people can come up with. I think they're a great addition to the game right now in BFA, even if they don't fill the gaping hole that's causing quite a few issues in the expansion. I do wonder if this will set us up for yet another End of Legion experience though. We lost our artifact weapons, that was kind of a given really with how Legion was ending, but I assume we will also lose the Heart of Azeroth when Battle for Azeroth comes to an end. That means losing our essences as well. A huge part of the problem in Battle for Azeroth at the start was that Legion artifacts weren't properly replaced. So, what happens when we go into the next expansion? That's a question I hope the dev team are working really hard on right now to come up with the right answer, because they've dropped the ball once already. I would hate to see them fumble another time. So, are classes too boring, and do essences do anything to change that? Well, that depends. Are you bored of your character right now? If so, essences probably won't change anything for you. Are you still having fun with your character right now? Well, in that case, you could have a lot of fun with this new system, at least until patch 9.0 comes around and we finally get another round of class changes. But that's it for this video. How do you feel about classes in Battle for Azeroth so far? Is there a class or spec that you're having fun with? What classes do you think are a bit too boring in Battle for Azeroth? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.